basically give it away to sell the cartridges, the resells. It's sort of a razor blade play. It has a motor, it has a sensor, it has a processor. The only thing it's missing is connectivity. So imagine it was connected, and then suddenly tomorrow we could actually predict colds and flu outbreaks by when Johnny didn't wash his hands last week. A week or a month ahead of Google or the CDC. So that connectivity is suddenly going to lead to almost devices that are social influencers. They're part of your network. Think about, here's a washing machine. What happens when all your clothes actually gang up and say, this is the kind of detergent I want you to use? And the washing machine has an opinion too, and they all basically are influencing your shopping list. This device, this new Whirlpool device literally has things like stain assist that are tuned to different kinds of clothing. And they've got a USB port. The minute it actually suddenly gets connectivity, we're going to see something new happen. And in a sense, think about the opportunity. This display on the Whirlpool, when you're outside of the room, it's dark. It just saves electricity. So there's a little sensor that says, oh, you're in the laundry room. Let me turn on the sensor. Let me turn on the light. You walk in, and they throw that data away. It just sort of gets wasted. But imagine if there's an entrepreneur out there, and you decided to save that data. And the entrepreneur says, I want to build an elder care app. I want to build something that's going to help independent living for my grandparents. And I'd love to know if they're alive and moving in the laundry room. And that signal, in a few hours is probably going to be more important to me about whether they're alive or dead than anything else. And I'm willing to pay a few fractions of a penny for that data. And it doesn't cost you anything to save at Whirlpool. And if you can basically start looking at the ways that we can take this exhaust data, turn it into a turbine, it may be little bits of money, fractions of a penny, but multiplied by trillions of devices. New billionaires are going to pop out overnight in this world. And there are a lot of opportunities here. If we go further and think about, okay, there are physical environments, but those physical flows are actually a bigger thing. You're flowing through a whole lifetime. There's the time that you're born and the time that you learn to walk and the first day at school. Those are all things that are going to be instrumented in the next few years. The physical context matters. Here's a great example. Here's Diego and Susie. 1976, they just got married. It's June 17th, and they decide to take a picture. Diego's a photographer. A few years later, they have a baby, Nicholas. And they decide every year, let's take a picture, June 17th. A few years later, they have another baby, Matthias. A few years later, it keeps going. They have another baby. A few years later, the kids start to grow up. Every year, they decide to take a picture of their whole family and pose exactly like the pose they had last year. And suddenly we have the arrow of time to the point where Nicholas has a wife, and suddenly he has a baby. And this is kind of this amazing arrow of time that you can harvest, that for the first time we'll be able to harvest. And what happens when we're actually in that flow and we look